Hello and welcome to the Tidal Thames, the third and final programme in our trilogy on the Great River. This is going to be a challenging boating experience for a narrowboat, partly because the tide runs at 4 knots, which is close to our maximum speed, partly because the Pool of London is the busiest commercial waterway in Britain, with large vessels and barge tows that need the centre channel, and partly because of the fast passenger services that move very quickly, creating a wash that's a metre high. You're going to need an anchor and a VHF radio, for which you'll need an operator's licence. We always make sure that everyone on board is wearing a life jacket, and that includes the dog. We prepare the boat by putting onto the floor everything that could fall on the floor. After all this preparation, the rewards are really worthwhile. There's no better way to see our capital than from the deck of your own boat. And when you've completed it, like all challenges, there's a fantastic sense of achievement. Well, it's now 1 hour before high water at Teddington, so it's time for the off. Come on, Belle. Come on. Good girl. That's the way. The Rabies Regulations sign reminds us that for some inbound vessels, this is potentially the first landing point in Britain. There are 3 locks at Teddington: a barge lock, a smaller launch lock and a tiny skiff lock. We're directed through the launch lock. On the non-tidal Thames, any vessel with an engine is known as a launch, and that includes narrowboats. The lock marks the end of the Environment Agency's jurisdiction over the river, as the whole of the tideway is controlled by the Port of London Authority. Timing's fairly critical for a narrowboat, as we have to arrive at Limehouse Basin before they run out of water, about 2 hours before low tide. If we miss that slot, we'll have to wait outside the lock for up to 4 hours. That's a pretty unappealing proposition. So at our slow narrowboat speed, it's a bit of a race against time to get there. To make sure we do, and taking into account the lockkeeper's advice, we've set off about an hour before high water. It was 10 to 7 in the morning. Initially, we're heading into the incoming tidal flow, so progress in this first hour is pretty slow. It gives us plenty of time to admire the opulent Twickenham waterfront. Alexander Pope was a notable 18th century English poet and the third most quoted author in the Oxford Dictionary of Quotations. This was his house. Now it's an independent school for boys and girls. There are some 50 or so private houses and small businesses on Eel Pie Island, accessible only by footbridge or by boat. The nature reserves at either end are not open to the public. Early morning mist has yet to clear as we enter Horse Reach just above Twickenham. The magnificent Star and Garter home for ex-servicemen appears decidedly murky atop Richmond Hill.